This week's episode of the Matterhorn Yodelers may cause heavy emotions, swelling in the eyes, and leakage. Please be careful if driving a vehicle or operating heavy machinery. Thank you and enjoy this week's episode of the Matterhorn Yodelers. Attention, bobsled riders! You will soon be embarking on a thrilling podcast down the icy slopes of the Matterhorn. So please remain seated, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the bobsled at all times. Auf Wiedersehen!
Hello, Yodelers! We are the Matterhorn Yodelers. I am your host today, Japheth. Sorry, I went out last night and it was really loud, so my voice is going to be deeper. And I don't know, and we're going to be talking about... Oh, wait, should I introduce you guys?
You don't have to.
It's been a while since I've hosted.
If you just want to take over, just be the only person.
I'll walk out. It's going to be a solo podcast. That's fine.
No one's looking forward to this podcast. All right, we also have...
Jackie.
And...
Sadness.
It's so appropriate. Yeah, so today we are going to talk about Disney animation that makes you cry. And so you think like, oh, this should be really cute. And then you start doing the homework and you're like, I can't stop crying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why would I do this to myself?
This was good idea on paper, and then bad idea in practice. We're like, they're not gonna understand a word I'm gonna say. They're gonna be doing remember when.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we
it was
apologize.
There's gonna be a lot of voice cracking and like
A sudden like going up or it gets quiet and
Yeah.
then fortunately we'll probably
These are definitely movies that will make you ugly cry.
it's gonna be a lot of work for me editing, being like, all right, there was a good 10 minutes. We're just sitting there crying, not talking. Let's cut that out.
So I was inspired. I told a coworker, I was like, yeah, I do a podcast, a Disney podcast, and he's all like, oh, I had a buddy ask me, you know, what Disney movies make you cry? And I was like, oh, that's a great idea. You know, hearing it, and then,
Oof.
like I said, it's difficult. Like, I was just writing the list, and I was just like, golly, I'm just getting emotional just writing it on
Writing
pen
it
to
down.
paper, and then I was like, all right, this morning I'm gonna like watch a couple to like really refine, you know, what it is, and it's just
The
like,
emotion, yes.
just the emotion of it. And so it'll be fun to go through this, and also just to hear perspective. Just initially before we started like we threw out a couple, and we were like, nah, that just do that for me. So I'm kind of curious to see how we are similar and which ones are different.
Right.
Let's see. I can remember the first. I'll go first.
Okay.
And this one won't make me cry. I remember the first time a Disney movie made me cry. I was 5 years old. I don't know if I told you guys this story.
I think I've heard this story.
This story,
yes.
yes.
I've heard this.
I was 5 years old, and we were watching Pete's Dragon. So you were probably like
Yes.
3. And Jackie didn't even exist back then. And so I remember watching Pete's Dragon, totally fine. And then suddenly, the dragon left. He's like, he had to go. And I was just
I
like...
thought it was the Passamaquoddy. Passamapoddy, Passamadaddy.
It was, the dragon had to leave. And I just remember it invoked this emotion of just pure tears. And I think that's the first memory I have myself crying that didn't include me being in pain or being told no. So Pete's Dragon has a special place, and I don't think I've ever really watched the movie since, or I've never even watched that scene because of the invocation of that emotion at that young age. Where it's like, yeah, I don't need to go. I don't really need to explore what that feeling is. I probably would be totally fine, understanding. People leave. This happens in life. But like at 5, that one just hit like, why? They're best friends. I did not understand why the dragon had to leave. I was, and I was like, think back. I'm like, okay, well, he served his purpose. It's time to go.
There's other children that need him.
Yeah, but I remember going to Father Yoder's office, which was your bedroom, that later turned into your bedroom, and poor Dad had no idea what was going on. You just have this 5-year-old just bawling his brains out, "The dragon had to leave!" And it's just like, what is going on? Her dad's like, "Okay." And then suddenly I just felt like he was pushing me out the door. I remember just the office door shutting, and I was all like, "Okay, what do I do with these emotions?" So it was... I'm sure Dad would be like, "I was more nurturing than that," but I don't know.
From a memory of a 5-year-old.
From a 5-year-old. I just remember I was talking to Dad, and then I suddenly wasn't talking to Dad. I'm sure Mother Yoder's all like, "Yep, that's how it is."
I have a... So for me, my first cry, and you guys might remember this phase I went through.
Was it your emo phase? No, there was no emo.
There was
phase.
no. There was definitely no emo phase for me.
There was never emo.
I know. That's
Nope.
I'm fun with it.
No, the first, and it wasn't necessarily like the movie that made me cry. It was the music that made me cry.
It's so true now.
And it was I Can Go the Distance from Hercules.
Oh gosh.
Like,
yes.
you know, like they bought me the cassette tape for that, and I would cry to the Michael Bolton version, you know, because like that was a very emotional song for me at that time, because I was at that point where everyone's talking about like, oh, what they're gonna be when they grow up, and I didn't know what I wanted to be. You know, I played with the idea, I want to be an Imagineer. I'm a big Disney nerd. I'm going to be a big Disney
You got a lot of
Imagineer.
pressure on yourself at like 10
I
years
did,
old.
and I think that's why it ended up not happening.
I was like, I'm going to be in the NBA. And then you get like, I stopped at 5'8", and I was like, nope.
Right, so it was that similar, like, yeah, I think I put too much pressure on me, and that's probably why things didn't happen in that way. But that song kind of helped me, like, realize that I could do... Funny thing is that's what we tell our kids all the time. You can do hard things. I can do hard things, you know. I can go the distance. And so that song really struck a chord with me at a young age. And that's the first time I remember really crying to something Disney related.
Yeah.
Besides wanting to go back to Disney World.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Disney World.
Right.
It probably didn't help that I knew that song was good to you, and I was the bully.
Everyone did.
And I would pick on...
You did. You would pick on me to the point where the song is partially ruined for me.
Oh, I know. I was like, ooh,
when I hear other people play, like, oh, I love this song, and then, like, part of me like cringes when I hear it now because
You visualized me like, I can go the distance.
Well, to be fair, I would like sing that at the top of my lungs. So I don't blame
I think that's
you
what
for
invoked
ridiculing.
that.
I don't blame you for ridiculing me for that, because I was not shy of my favoritism towards that song for a long time. So
That and your Bill Cosby
yes,
comedy
I went
tape.
through a Bill Cosby phase. Yeah. Yep. Daddy's great. Give us the chocolate cake. Yeah. It's always good.
Yeah.
All right, Jackie.
I couldn't tell you what my first memory was. I cried a lot as a child, so...
As us yodelers, we inherited a gene from Mother Yodeler that invokes the act of teary-eyed crying, and so...
We're very emotional people.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yes.
Anything with death, I will cry.
Yeah, it's an easy one. What's one of the ones that gets you going? Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Let's get into the root of like.
I mean, let's go with like an easy top one, Coco.
Oh gosh.
Remember Me.
Oh gosh.
It just like pulls your heartstrings,
And then it tells you don't cry, and I'm all like, and they're like, yeah, right, okay, thanks, jerk.
Don't let me make you cry.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh yeah.
Just
like
like-
that the last
Yeah.
one when Miguel's saying it to Grandma Coco.
to remember her father, and you're just like, don't forget.
The weight of the song in that moment,
was great.
because
Like,
it was all critical. Like, you need something to invoke that memory, so he can live on. And so, like, because you hear it throughout the movie,
yes.
but like, boom, that one hits, and you're just like, because there's the flashback, and I think that one got me when I first watched
Was the
it.
flashback?
The flashback. Yeah, so whenever it comes up, and I've got a little girl, and so, like, boom, it just, like, it hits me now even harder as a parent.
Oh, yes.
So I can only imagine when you saw it the first
Oh, yeah.
time with your kids,
Oh, yeah.
you're like, oh my gosh.
I literally remember walking out of that theater like, I'm downloading this album right now. I'm gonna
the
listen
snot's
to
dripping
it."
down. They're like, what's wrong? They're like,
I've only done that in 2 movies. I've walked out of a theater going, I'm buying this album right now. It was Coco and The Greatest Showman.
oh, it's good
Yeah.
to watch, yeah.
Those 2 movies, I walked out and like, I'm downloading this now because we had our nephew with us. We took him to see it, and we listened to that album all the way when I was dropping him off. Like, oh yeah, like that was...
The power of downloading things on the internet.
Yeah.
Like, I remember
Oh,
going
yeah.
to the store with Dad for hours at like Zia's or the
The
Warehouse.
Warehouse, yeah. I remember the Warehouse, yeah.
Just him looking for the music.
Yeah.
And then even then, like, even if you got the CD, you know, you didn't have a CD player in the car.
Right.
Yes.
Because at that time, like, the nicer cars had the CD player, so we had the cassettes.
You had to get the cassette like thing with
Adapter.
the adapter with the
Yes.
string, and then you had to have the portable CD player. And then when you hit a bump, oh, your CD player was like all over the place. Like remember, like,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like cut off. Yeah. So, oh, I love technology and the ability to download something when that emotion is just like raw. You're like, oh,
Oh, yeah.
great. I want that. I need that.
And I think that song will make that movie be eternal in the eyes of Disney fans.
I agree.
I think it's
Yeah.
one, like, because of that song specifically, I think it will create
Made
that
it
that
memorable.
movie will be memorable because of that, which is why I still believe, and you know, D23 is coming up. I still believe that they will make the Mexico Pavilion ride into a Coco ride.
Where everyone's
agree.
just crying like, remember.
Yes.
You don't have
Yes.
code V's, you have like code S for snot.
Yes. It'd be all the boats come with a box of tissues.
Mama Coco.
I know. We sing Mama Coco's funeral.
They don't even show that in the movie.
Nope.
Stop,
Nope. We're gonna have
that's
Mama's
so
Coco
sad.
funeral on the ride. Miguel playing his guitar.
Oh, I didn't think of that. It's funny, and I'm teary-eyed too at the same moment. Okay, yeah. Do you have a death one that you want to talk about, Peter?
The one
While we're here, let's really
yeah,
just,
let's
just get to death.
There's
Let's
a lot of death ones.
let's
with
get
Disney.
to our mortality and what invokes it.
the one that surprised me about how emotional it was one that's not a very popular Disney movie, and that was Brother Bear.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
The Brother Bear scene, you know, like, and for those who may not know the movie as well, it's about this guy who turns into a bear, and then he befriends a little bear cub, and you later find out that he contributed to the death of his mother.
Golly, it's been so long since I've seen this movie where I'm all
Yeah.
like, that's what
And so
happened.
at the very end, he has this heart-to-heart moment where he explains, because the cub doesn't know his mom died.
Mm.
And so he's like, yeah, Mom's going to meet us at the mountain.
Oh, yeah.
And so he realizes that his mom was there when his brother had died. And so he killed his mom.
It's like if
When he
Man
was
from
still
Bambi
Man. Yes.
like came out and be like, "Hey, want to be my friend, dear?"
Right, exactly. And so, like, you watch the moment, it goes, like, you know, it's like, I need to tell you about what happened to your mom. And, like, that sense of, like, yeah, I killed your mom sort of thing. And he's all like, that emotion of, like, being upset and, like, oh, I couldn't imagine going through that.
Have to tell someone you killed their
Yeah.
parent, and they're
Right.
like, "You want to be my best friend still?"
Right.
My brother.
Exactly. Like, I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is like a raw. And then, you know, you've got what's his name doing the music,
Phil Collins.
Phil Collins.
Oh gosh,
His
that's
Brother
why.
Bear, I let you down. It's like, yes, you did. Like he's evoked the song was just like the 1-2 punch that made that scene for me. Like I was like, oh my gosh, this scene is so amazing and sad.
I can see why I forgot about this, because as people know with me, I don't like Phil Collins. People bring up Tarzan, I'm like, oh, Phil Collins. That's the first thing comes up about. Ruined the movie for me. And then it's like Rosie O'Donnell after that. Yeah, I don't remember Phil Collins doing the music for that one.
Yes, that was because of the success of Tarzan, they brought him in to do the music
Subjective.
for Brother Bear. Yeah, they thought, yeah, it'd be a good idea to bring him in for Brother
Like,
Bear.
I'm on my way song.
The Welcome to This Family is the
Yeah.
one that Disney still uses in the parks. So like they use the music a lot.
Yeah.
Still,
Why didn't they do it in Brother Bear too? Because that's the one I
did,
watched recently.
yeah.
Was Phil Collins in that one too?
I don't think.
Oh.
No.
I was like,
no,
I watched
no.
I watched Brother Bear 2 because we had the one podcast,
Yeah.
and I was like, that's not too bad, but I don't even remember
No.
the first one anymore.
No, yeah, definitely not Phil Collins. He did not do the sequel.
Okay, for my death one, I would say Up. That one was
Yeah.
like, that's when I realized, like, dang, Pixar, you're at another level here.
That was the realization that like Pixar's going for something else. Like it's not just like
Let's make kid movies and make hand over fist money right here.
no,
Yeah.
like they made heartfelt.
They make
stories.
it
This was
enjoyable for the
I felt like
adult.
Up was like phase 2 of Pixar. Of like, because like from that point, I think all the way to Coco was like emotional city.
They nailed the story to invoke that human response where it
Yes.
just hits those strings of humanity in you.
So like half my list here is Pixar movies from that.
Yeah,
that
I only
era.
had like 5 movies of all the Disney movies, and then I was all like, all right, Pixar, and it just like it rolls
like,
through with what they're doing.
They did a fantastic job of storytelling and making you connect with these characters. And, Up is such a very emotional scene. Everyone always talks about how, like, it's the
Yeah.
most emotional first 5 minutes of the movie.
Who starts a
yeah.
movie that we're like, we're gonna make the audience super
What
sad?
a way to like capture you in, because you're like already bawling for the first 5 minutes. You're like, I'm in this. Let's go.
Yeah.
Well, they
I
have
want my money back. I cried way too much for that.
Well, they have to make you fall in love with Carl
Yeah.
because he's such a bitter old man.
That's probably what it was. They were watching movies like, this man is not likable. It's
And
like
so they
Angry
need
Woody.
to give him a reason to be likable. And so I think that's one of the main reasons why they did that, is so that we can sympathize with his bitterness.
That's good. I like that point of view. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Up. I know it was big
Same
on
with
your
my
guys'
wife.
list.
Same with
Yeah.
my wife. My wife's not a big fan.
Like, I like the opening scene, and as I watch the movie, I'm like, okay. But I do like Doug Days. The little
Oh,
clips.
Doug Days is
the little
cute.
the sequels
Yeah.
of it. That one. I've watched that a million times because once the little kid knows how to say dog, they're like, dog, dog, dog.
Yep.
That's all I want to watch.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Okay. What do you got, Jackie? Got anything else?
Yeah, I've got a few.
There's a lot of death.
There's a lot of death in. Let's talk about Ray's funeral. In
Ray's
Princess and the Frog.
Oh, yes.
Is so sad.
That
So-
one got me.
So for me, it's not the funeral that makes me sad. It's what happens right after the funeral.
Oh.
With the star.
When he becomes
Yeah.
the star.
I kind of included that all.
I
in
know,
that.
but like the actual funeral part, I didn't really get too emotional over. But it was like when the star happened, that's when I'm
And
all
he's
like,
with-
"He's a star. He's with me, Angeline."
Yeah.
Yes. And there was the whole like song before we were like, what a weird, like, he's like, well, that's like, you don't even think anything of that at that moment. We're like, oh, it's cute. He's in love with the
Yeah.
star. He's a firefly. And then when it happens, you're like, oh, I get it. It's just like, they played me from back
Oh,
then.
yes.
They planted the
Yes.
seed, and you're just like, oh.
You didn't think that they were gonna fulfill that story arc of with
Yeah.
his love with the star.
I mean, brilliant for the writers to just like create that side story, and you're just like oh.
his story was more emotional than any other characters
Yeah.
in that movie. So
I think so. I think
Yeah.
that was. Yeah, I agree.
I was more happy that Ray got to be with his love than Tiana
Got her a restaurant.
got a restaurant. Yeah. Like, yeah, good job, Tiana. All right. The bug got his star.
It's not that she got to have her restaurant, but she got to live her father's dream.
That's a really good story. I mean, we're not trying to get.
Yeah.
I know.
This is a great. Like, this is a movie where I'm like, it never hits my register of like, oh, this is a great movie. But when I watch it, I'm like, this is a really good movie, and I'm enjoying myself
Yes.
trying to watch it. And then it does evoke that emotion through that story arc. All right, Peter, what else you got?
They maybe kind of transition us away from death.
We got
per
one
se.
more big one we need to talk about for death.
Oh, really? Which one are you talking about?
Mufasa dying.
Oh, yeah,
That's the
that
one
one.
Lion
that people
King.
talk about.
Yes.
That's a very popular one. For me, it's not like when Mufasa's falling off the cliff. It's when Simba's going, Dad, Dad, and he's crawling
He's
up,
looking for his dad.
and then he's crawling up in his dad's arms. Oh, my tears. Oh, it's so strong.
It is definitely... I mean, it deserves a spot. It's just for some reason that one doesn't hit me.
Maybe
like-
our age.
And
when we
it
watched
was like
it.
that one, and you know, since we're talking about it, I can throw Bambi in here. The same
Yeah.
thing with Bambi. Like, yes, it's a very sad moment, but I've never gotten emotional over those scenes specifically. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on those? Because they're very similar in the sense of like, you know.
It doesn't for me with Lion King. I think it's because they prepped us as a circle of life.
Right.
They really gamed it beforehand. You're like, oh, that's what happens. And it may be the whole animal
Aspect,
thing.
sure.
Oh,
It
that's
very well.
through
The
an animal?
personification of the animal, where it's just like, it's...
It's harder to connect.
I think that may be it. I'm trying to think. Is there another story where I'm like really sad?
Well, the one
There's
I
Finding
have,
Nemo.
yes.
That one deals with death, and
yeah.
like you're dealing with an animal, like
So, yes, Finding Nemo is a difference, though, because, like,
it's Circle of Life.
it's Circle of Life, but, like, the setup for that was a masterpiece, I feel. Like, the way they set up, you know, Marlin and Coral's relationship, you know, about, they're about to have, like, hundreds of babies.
The excitement of
The
Yeah.
excitement of it's like, we're gonna name most of them, you know, this one Coral Jr. and this one Marlin Jr. And he's like, I want to name one Nemo. Well, we'll name one Nemo. And then the whole incident happens with the
Yeah.
barracuda, and like
Oh,
Coral dies, and all the fish eggs are eaten except for one,
yeah.
and he names it Nemo.
Oh, you're making me
Like,
cry already.
It was just all like, oh, like a way to keep, and like it's a way you relate to Marlin as a character as to like why he's so protective over Nemo, because it's his like last
Like,
bit of his life.
relationship,
Yeah.
Of his
it's
relationship.
love. It's the physical manifestation, the last like thread of it,
Right.
and so yeah, it never got an emotional response to it till my wife was pregnant, and then there's the thought,
Yes.
and then it's like, okay, I get it now. It's
Yes.
right there.
And I
it's
think
like,
I even told you to go, man, as soon as you get married and start having kids, all these stories have a different meaning. And you're like, I do now. I get it.
I see the light.
Right. But the one death that I think is a good death into a transition to a different sort of sadness.
I do have one death one before you transition.
Okay, what's yours?
It's Encanto when they do the flashback with the
Oh
abuelo,
my gosh.
and they have the
yes.
song.
Makes me cry every single
It's a
time.
sacrifice death, like Mufasa.
Yeah.
Like there's that kind of like.
Right.
And it's,
He to sacrifice
To
himself
save his
to
family. Oh,
save his
gosh.
family and everyone else who's trying to get away.
exactly, and so That
the
one
hero
invokes
sacrifice.
me. Yes, hero sacrifice every time gets me. I can't even watch Saving Private Ryan anymore because of just any kind of heroic or self-sacrifice. Boom! It's just like I shut down, I cry, and so seeing that, oh, it's beautiful. Invokes just, I mean, the Abuela plays this role of everyone appreciates what he's done, and because of that sacrifice, you get the magic of what do they call it? The casa. Yes. So I thought it was a beautiful scene, and
The
when
song
it
is
hits,
beautiful.
oh
Yes.
yeah, I'm just hearing it in my head. I'm like, oh, it's so beautiful. I'm getting little goosebumps thinking about it. So again, music with these scenes are boom, 1-2 punch, and it's not the lyrics. I mean, it probably is the lyrics. I mean, from what I heard, it's what you're seeing is what you're getting because of my father-in-law. He knows some Spanish, and he's like, they're telling you exactly what's going on with the lyrics and stuff. So, I wanted to throw that one out before we transition.
Well, I think I was going to transition one way, but I think I'm going to transition a different
okay.
way now. I have Wreck-It Ralph.
Okay.
That one,
His
no.
sacrifice, his final sacrifice when he's going in, he's going to sacrifice himself to defeat the bad guys so that, he's going to go crash into Diet Coke Mountain.
I don't remember this.
He has
at
this
all.
moment. He's diving down and he's repeating the Badanon oath where it's all like, I am a bad guy. This does not mean I'm a bad guy. He's having that reflection of he's giving himself up to sacrifice one he loves, which is Vanellope.
Yeah.
Obviously, a different sort of love, but he still loves her
Yeah.
and wants to make sure that she's okay, and he's willing to sacrifice his life, his programming, so that she can be safe because she's the target of attack at this moment. And so that part really gets to me, that self-reflection that his story arc completes where he's accepted who he is as a person and he's okay with that.
Yeah.
He's okay being the bad guy because he knows what his role is. And so he's willing to
And he knows it
sacrifice
doesn't
himself.
define him too. And,
Right.
that act really solidifies.
I'm not bawling at this scene, but I do get emotional.
It's a beautiful
hits,
scene.
yeah.
It is. I would agree.
He's holding on to his,
His
cookie metal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
and he's all reminiscing. He says, I am not a bad guy, And so, that hero sacrifice. Obviously, he doesn't die, but that acknowledgement that he's willing to sacrifice himself. That moment where he feels like he's going to die because.
Yeah. And he's willing to do it. Do you have one in this realm?
Yeah. Baymax retirement.
When he's in the realm and he's gonna send Hero away.
Hero away, and he's like, "Are you satisfied with my care?" It's just like,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that line, yeah.
Yes. And he's like, "No, you can't do this." He's like, "Are you satisfied with my care?"
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that one hits me. It's just like, I came here to do my job, and this is my job.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, that one's good. I'm getting emotional just thinking about this one. Woo! Here it goes. I lost the bet. I went first.
We've had more practice holding back.
Oh, but I didn't prep myself for this one. I should have watched it beforehand. It's Bing Bong from In and Out.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep, that was
Yep.
that was at the top of my
for
list.
sure.
His
Oh.
sacrifice.
It's hard because they try multiple times to get up the hill, and then Bing Bong just knew. He had to drop off.
Well, and if you look at Bing Bong's story here, his whole story arc is basically him trying to hold on to his happy memories, and
But it's not Riley's anymore.
it's not,
Yeah.
and so then it's not until later on that he realizes that like, it's not the same. Riley's not the same person that she once was, and therefore his point of hanging on, because he's just kind of like wandering around at this point, like he realizes Riley doesn't need her anymore, and realizes that she needs joy. And so that moment of like, that moment where he realizes that like he can't leave the pit, but she needs to, and says, come on, let's do it one more time. I've got a good feeling about this. That moment when like I think he knew what he was about to do, and he's all like, come on, louder, you can do it, sing louder, Joy. And she's like, we did it. And like you see him disappear, and it's like, oh, beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. Again, I brought it up, and I'm just like, I agree with my statement. Good job.
It's great. We're also crying.
Yes, I brought in handkerchiefs for us. It's just like, Jackie's like, I didn't put on my makeup before this. It's like, either did I. I knew I couldn't handle it. What you guys don't know is in the videos, I'm dressed up in a Kiss outfit, and the makeup would just be ruined. No. We mask our sadness with humor. Okay. What do we have anything more on the sacrifice and kind of the death realm of?
What about Toy Story 3?
Oh,
the burning of the
The
toys.
burning of the
Golly.
toys. The ending when we
Well, I think
thought
this
it
is-
was the end.
yes.
Like they really.
Why would you
they
do
really
this, Pixar?
So
taught us. Like they really show like this is the end of Toy Story. You're like no.
well, it's funny. I'm gonna lighten the mood up here a bit because there's this video of this family, these kids. They edited the end of Toy Story 3 so that is the end, is that moment, and they showed it to their mom who hadn't seen it yet, and they like edited it where it's just like as they're about right before the clock comes down, it just like cuts to black. It says Toy Story 3, and it's playing. You've got a friend. And she goes, "That's a horrible ending!" Like it is hilarious video. Because it's like it cut at that like raw moment of like, oh my gosh,
Oh, I got tears of laughter.
It's yeah, it was
I'll have to link it if I remember.
that is a hilarious video. But like everyone else is laughing because they know what happened, and the mom's still like, why are you all laughing at me? It is hilarious. But going back, but yeah, that moment, because like at this point Toy Story had been around for at least a decade.
We knew the end was coming.
It was like 95, and this movie comes out in like what 2010. So
Yeah.
you got 15 years right there. So like for those who are in their 20s when they watch this, these toys are
family.
they're family. They're your toys.
Yeah.
And
Woody
so
and Buzz, yeah.
it hits you like, oh, like. It just, for me, it hit like, oh my gosh, I could lose, like, my childhood.
Yeah.
It's that moment of their self-realization that gets to me. When they stop fighting it, they stop
Yeah.
trying to do
They
it,
just,
and
like, hold
they're
on.
just like, we're gonna hold each other
Yeah.
and go out together. That's the
Oh.
part. It's like, oh,
Yeah, that. And I remember, so I was on a date, and the person had already seen this movie. And it was the first time. And I'm like,
Oh, no.
and everybody's like, oh yeah, I was in the military, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm watching this movie, and I'm just like, don't cry. I don't care how hard. I remember just like, yep, I'm just like looking away. And just like, I was just like, just don't do it. And I just did not want to blubber. I think it was like my third date with this person, and it was just like, oh gosh, this is so hard. Yeah. And then, like, as I'm watching this, I was so into it, it didn't even occur to me as like, really? Is this how they're there's no way you're going
Right.
You're going to end the
Yeah.
movie like, I'm burning! And then you have lots of going, I have the high ground! Alright, Buzz Lightyear,
yes. I saw us circle around the Star Wars again.
I couldn't help it. Alright, so that one's... Oh, and while we're at Toy Story 3, Andy's saying goodbye to the toys.
Oh, his toys
I was
and
like,
giving
really?
them
You're
to
gonna punch me
Bonnie?
right here while I'm down?
I didn't like that scene at all. Just because I was like, no, those are Andy's toys, not Bonnie's toys.
Oh, I thought it was good.
It was good.
I thought it was
I
the
think
best way to
to end
transition.
it. Honestly, they should have ended the series right there.
There was a song.
I thought it was over, and when Toy Story 4 came out, I was like, let's see how they do this one, because you can't top Toy Story 3. It's like one of my top, I think I discussed, it is one of my top, like, 5.
It was really good, and so when Toy Story 4 hit, they kind of like went back on Bonnie because like Bonnie wanted Woody, and now all of a sudden like Bonnie doesn't care about Woody, and it's all like that doesn't seem right. But that's a story for another day.
There was a sad part in Toy Story 4 when Woody says bye to Buzz.
Oh, when he's saying his goodbye to all his friends. Yes, I agree. Like that was sad, but I felt like
You're still angry that they did this movie?
yeah.
I think that's what I was like, why would you mess with such a good thing?
It's money, Bob Chainbreaker. We did it because of money. No, this is before Bob Chainbreaker.
Yeah.
So, but this was more of a Iger decision. But
Yeah,
I don't know. I just thought it was sad, just like saying goodbye to like a strong duo.
yeah, it is sad. I mean, again, it's the childhood and knowing that like family's been broken up.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of growing up, and so that's how I see it. Yeah. Well, while we're in Toy Story, I want to bring up Toy Story 2.
Oh yeah.
When She Loved Me,
Golly.
that was probably the second song that started getting me to cry.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, like it's a way you like. I don't normally care about Jesse's character, but that
Yeah.
song.
Oh yeah, it changes. It makes you feel guilty about your toys.
That's so true.
I abandoned my toys.
Where are you, Luke Skywalker?
I know.
You've been lost for 20 years.
Yes.
I replaced you too.
And it'll never leave the box.
Really? You kept it in the
It's
box?
still in the box. It's in the drawer of my nightstand.
Oh, good.
Do you say goodnight to it every?
Goodbye, Luke.
Goodbye, Luke. Goodbye, Luke.
I'll never lose you again.
Yeah, as your wife's going like, why does he keep talking about my nephew? This is really weird. Like, right. I'm talking about Luke Skywalker.
I know.
It's the mystery of that house. Like, what happened to Luke? Like, he didn't leave the house, but somehow he's just
He disappeared.
gone. Unless there's a hidden story, someone doesn't want to. It's the skeleton of our family, the Yoder family.
The missing Luke Skywalker toy. Yep.
Right. So we're talking about songs. Are there songs?
I've got a song. I wouldn't. It's not an animated movie, but I felt like I should bring it up because, and this doesn't make anybody's list probably.
But it gets you.
It gets me because I connect with it, and I will probably get emotional and start crying here. So
What?
yes. So go with me here. We're going on the Muppets reboot that they did back in like 2012 or something like that. Okay.
Manor Muppet?
No, not Manor Muppet. Although that's a good song. Not the one that gets to me. The scene is where they're trying to convince Kermit to get all the Muppets back together again, and Kermit has this song, Pictures in My Head.
Okay.
Where he's, like he's reminiscing about his old friends and wanting to reunite with them and whether or not it's a good idea or not. He misses the good old times. His friends used to be there with him, and now they're only pictures in his head. And you get those moments where he's like interacting with the pictures in his hallway of all the different Muppets, and I relate to it because of my friends and my connection with them. And I constantly think back when I think of this song, I think about them. And as you grow up, you grow apart from a lot of your friends, and your friendship isn't the same as it once was when you were children. So whenever this song comes up on my player, that's why I get emotional on this one. So
It's a beautiful song. I never thought of that,
Yeah.
of that way.
again, it's not going to make anybody else's list, but it made mine.
That's a beautiful way of looking at that. And you know, like I've had those qualms, like as I meet up with friends lately, and just think about like it's not the same. But you talk to them, and they are the person you knew that was there. You know, it's still there, but we move on, and life gets in the way. And adulting. God,
Yeah.
Adulting. Gosh. Remember when we were kids, we were just like, I wanna grow up so I can stay up and I can eat ice cream pizza and like
And now that we're an adult, we're like, oh, too much sugar.
yeah, we're like, oh, Keenan was so right with
Don't put Twinkies on your
heavyweights.
pizza. Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, that's what's the beauty of like of kids, and I think I understand why parents do such a good job in trying to preserve that time period of just enjoy your friends, and they're always supportive and allowing the goofiness because they know they will become pictures in your
Right.
head. And yeah, oh, it's beautiful. Oh man, totally not on my radar. Good
Yeah.
job with that. Man.
There's one that's a little bit happier tears. But it's with Rapunzel reunites with her parents.
Oh, that is a great reunion.
And it's the father's look.
Mm.
Because, like, before he's just like, it's another year missing his daughter. And then they get the news that she's there. And just go back and watch that scene. Just focus on the father's eyes, and you will probably cry.
I as you're talking about it, I can see it, and I'm like, oh, that is a powerful
Well,
scene.
the Rapunzel's father is a very emotional man. Like
Yes.
the couple times you see him, he's crying.
Yeah.
Like the first scene where you see him lifting the lantern up in the air, you know, on Rapunzel's birthday, like his wife is literally wiping a tear off of his like medallion. You know, like
Yeah.
that scene, like very emotional character for a man who doesn't have any lines.
Right.
That's true.
He was supposed to be the narrator, but then they gave it to Flynn.
Imagine if we were the narrators of that, like, oh, my daughter's dead! You're like, this isn't working out. Get him out of the booth. This is not working. I'm sorry. We appreciate it. We gave him a no-line part.
Right.
Oh, goodness. Let's go with, I got a song, and it's one that hit me, like, later on. Because as a kid, it didn't hit me, but it's one of those, like, reflecting, the pains of being, like, a teenager. And it's the Mulan, My Reflection.
Oh.
It's beautiful.
The song is beautiful, yeah.
So that one, it's like, just think about it, it's like, oh man, just the struggles of being like in limbo of like, where am I? What am I doing? And it's like, I think it's a beautiful song. So I wanted to throw that out just as like a little like pop in. I don't have like it didn't push me through anything, but when I hear people's story with it, I was like, oh, that's beautiful, like, and how it touched them in that moment.
I mean, I think everyone goes through that state of mind of, like, trying to figure out who they are as a person. And, like, that's why I think Mulan is such a relatable character, is because she goes through that crisis of, like, who am I? Like, what am I doing? Like, why am I not the person that everyone wants me to be?
Yeah.
You know, like...
And that's when you join the army.
That's it. Join the army.
You join the army, and then you're like, this is not for me. That was not right.
So actually, the Mulan was actually a recruitment plan for the
Chinese army.
For the Chinese army.
We need more female soldiers. You got something, Jackie?
Yeah.
I'm getting. I think I've got like one more.
Yeah, I've got one more. Well, I've got two.
I've got like 10. So let's keep going.
I've got two, but one you probably won't connect to, but it's Onward at the end.
It's actually on
It's
my
on your
list.
list?
It's my last one on the list.
Yeah.
Probably because I went sequential, and I was like, oh, Onward, here we go.
Yeah, Onward, and it's more of like, because the story focus is on the younger sibling
Getting to meet his dad.
but at the end it reverses.
Yeah, that one,
that aha moment.
Yeah.
It
It's
was a
really
aha moment,
good.
and it is a sacrifice moment of like, it's not about me. I did get Dad, but he needs the closure of Dad. So, very good. Yeah, that
It was a nice little twist for
Yeah.
sure.
it was the twist because it's the journey, and I know you're not a big fan of the Journey movie as much. I think that's when we first like discussed this. Like Onward, you were not a huge fan because you're like,
yeah.
here we are, we're going on a journey. Here we go here, next year, there, here. It's a story that's been played out
Right.
a lot. But I
But
thought
it
that
was
the
that
good
was
twist.
that was a very good twist. I will.
Yeah.
I can't deny that. That was like, oh, that was. I see what you did there.
You know, it brings up the good point where it's like when you're raised by an older sibling. We didn't experience that
No.
because I didn't raise anybody. I raised a lot of hate. I hate you. Yeah, and to where you see like those who didn't have their dad growing up and then had an older brother that filled that role. You're like, oh, that's really beautiful in what they did there.
Yeah.
And so, I recognize it for the beautiful moment that it is, with the sacrifice of the younger son, whether it was willing or not willing, like it's still like, there was time spent with the dad. And I think that was good. Closure.
Yeah.
I've got I'll go through my at least worth mentionings. One that I think is more emotional, if you consider one of our last episodes recently, is with the Pixar theory,
Yeah.
is Sully and Boo's goodbye.
Oh, that's my last one.
That was my last one.
Yeah, that's
All
good.
right, that was your guys' last
Let's
one.
wait that one because we can discuss
Okay.
that our last one. Do some like rapid fire ones.
Okay.
What you got?
Beauty and the Beast, when Belle says "I love you,"
That's a
Oh,
good
yeah.
moment.
like that like, oh, he finally got the love he needed.
Yeah.
And then he died. No,
He died and then he got the love. It's like, oh, great. And it would have been really sad if he's like, he turned human, but he's still a dead body on the ground. Like, oh my gosh.
That's bad.
Yeah. We have Snow White's funeral.
Oh,
That's a good
yeah.
moment.
With the seven dwarves, even Grumpy is sitting there bawling his eyes out.
Yeah.
Like I think it's that moment when Walt watched the premiere and was seeing people cry that he knew that he hit it,
Yeah.
that he got people to cry to a cartoon.
Yeah.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
that was kind of a not one where I'm bawling, but like you can get emotional on. Then Baby Mine. Baby Mine
Yeah.
from Dumbo.
Oh, that made me cry this morning. Oh,
Yeah.
gosh.
Like it's like not one I attached to as a child, but as an adult, as a parent, you just all like nothing you want more to just hold on to your kids.
Even
they
when
need
you're
help.
chained as a parent
Right.
with what you can do and cannot do, all you need is that little extended arm
Right.
to comfort.
Yeah.
I have another Wreck-It Ralph one.
Okay.
Golly, I need to watch Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah. When Ralph wrecks Penelope's car.
Oh.
Ralph gets told, like Penelope can't race because then, everyone's gonna die if Penelope races and it gets put back into the game. And so Ralph makes the decision to wreck her car for her betterment, and like she has that like I hate you moment,
Yeah.
and like that he's doing it from
A place of
a
love.
place of love.
Oh, man, I'm oblivious. I must have been the most heartless person ever. Now looking back where it was, like, timeline in my life going, oh yeah, I was
Yeah.
not in the
Right.
right place for that movie.
And probably the last one on my list is, and people have a different moment from this movie, but this part gives me to, hits me, is when, and this kind of goes back to our discussion with the hero sacrifice, is when Wally is sacrificing himself to put the plant in the machine.
Yeah.
When he's being crushed. Like, seeing him get crushed, thinking, like, he's gonna die right now.
Yeah.
Like, everyone has the part where, like, Eve's trying to revive him, which that is an emotional scene, but I think it's, like, actually watching him being
Being crushed. I
Yeah.
remember that scene. I was in Iraq, and I was watching a bootleg version of it, and I remember like there was a downtime, and I remember just like, oh, I'll put on this movie because we had like a movie drive, and I was like, let me watch this movie, and it wasn't like a huge like. 'Cause
Right.
there's that period with Disney movies where like, oh yeah, Disney movies, but I think I'd watched Ratatouille before. I was just like,
Right.
oh, they're pretty good. Let me watch
the
this.
Pixar
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh, let me watch Wall-E. And I always remember that crushing scene, and I was like, oh, wow. Do not cry. You're your second week with all these new people, and
watching
you're on a
all-
deployment with these people for
You're-
the next 9 months.
Yeah,
It's like,
you're-
don't
You're
don't
getting,
label yourself as this person.
you're
Right.
getting emotional on a crushed robot. Like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, especially
But, like-
with these guys. Yeah, I'm so glad. Yeah, if I was in my own little place, I would have probably cried.
Just seeing that, like the music suspense, and you just like, oh, and like you see him being crushed, and Eve's like, no, like,
Yeah.
oh,
It's a
just
good
like-
one. All right, we ready for this one?
Let's
Let's go to the-
let's go back to the Pixar theory.
Yeah.
Pixar theory that ain't no.
The Pixar theory makes this seem so much more real.
Oh yes, absolutely.
I think so. I don't. I'm not a fan of this movie. I think it's on my lower half, but as I've grown up, especially I've got a little girl. Oh
Yep.
gosh, triggers it. Oh man, the way she talks, I was like, it's my little girl. So yeah, for me, it's the saying goodbye.
Yeah.
It's so tough.
It's like solely saying goodbye and she's not realizing it.
Right.
And then when she opens up the door and he's not there,
That sense of like, oh, it's gone.
the game's over. At least to her.
Let's take a moment to cry.
Yeah, I think it's that moment where, and I think that's something that I think all parents. I mean, obviously, I'm not at this point yet. You know, I can think back to probably father and mother Yodeler here when we left,
Yeah.
and they had to say goodbye to us as we had to go live our life, and I think. It's a scene that I think a lot of people can relate to, both as a parent or a child, of like, the ones that, the ones you hold near and dear to your heart. One day they may not be there anymore, and you'll have to do things on your own. And then you go on a lifelong journey and travel through time to bring them back.
Pixar theory. It all makes sense. It's all interconnected. Yeah. You have anything to... I think you nailed it, Peter.
Yeah. I mean, Disney has a way to pull your heartstrings. Pixar does a beautiful job.
Phase 2 of Pixar, for sure. They did a fantastic job.
I think that's what one of the main things makes Disney is they're able to pull on those heartstrings. It's the music, and if it can make you cry.
If you can strike emotion,
Yeah.
you've done your job.
Yeah.
And telling a story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say the power of song, characters' act of love. When these scenes can hit the most basic elements of our humanity. And I'll kind of finish with this. Like, movies that make us cry, or can bring us to the core of what it means to be human. That's why we watch it, And, we don't want to go like, I want to cry. No, it's just like, I want to feel
Yeah.
being human. Because the emotions really do make us different in this world. We try to stifle as much as we can, but there is a euphoria with the tears that come to it, of just the realization of our mortality and the experiences that we have. And so I think it's beautiful that Disney is really refining it and what we've got.
And that's what almost the entirety of Inside It is about.
Yeah.
Is about that, like, it's okay to be sad. It's
Yeah.
important. You need to be sad because that's how we cope with things.
Yeah.
And And like,
You need that sadness. There's joy and sadness.
right.
Connected. Yeah, I agree. All right, let's end there. That was really good.
Yeah.
I feel good, right? There's like,
We've had closure.
Gosh, it was like a good therapy session. These guys are like, I don't understand what they're saying.
They were mumbling. Editing's gonna be like, oh my gosh, I can't hear a single thing these guys are saying.
We should have like a translation afterwards.
I
Like,
know, right?
Japheth is trying to say this. Morgan Freeman, get up on that. All right. Well, thank you for listening to us. Please follow us on our social medias. Let us know like what gets you crying, or just you don't even have to write to us. Just put on a good like cry movie and just feel it out.
Yeah.
It really just releases the tension, which I feel like we need now in this
Yeah.
time. I think everyone just needs to be human and just have a good cry. And so, am I missing anything else with like our farewell? Like, no.
You're good.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to us. I really appreciate you guys, all of you, to listening to our podcasts. And I'm just gonna say, Auf Wiedersehen.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the Matterhorn Yodelers. Please remember, before your bobsled comes to a complete stop, to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And remember,
Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.